Hello, Rishita. Hello, everyone. Hi, Adarsh. Hello, Tanushri, Rohan, Cherit, Niharika. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Yes. Am I audible? Please put that in the chat box. Loud and clear. Yes, everyone. Be proactive in the chat so I know that you are there. You're able to hear me. Thank you, Rohan. Thanks for assuring me that you can hear me. Cherit, am I audible? Adarsh. Hey, Neha. Hello, Shravya. Who is this galaxy? Please change your name. I want everybody to be proactive. That means change your name, rename your, whatever your ID comes with. And then, hey, Ratna. Good, Rishit. Good to know. Hello, Neha. Hi, Pritam. Good to see you, Mitra. All right. Himavant. Okay. Good, good. Hi, Shenmok. So seems like everybody can hear me loud and clear. So let's start today's discussion, especially with, yes, we have comma rules, yet few more, especially with the non-essential information. Non-essential information here comes in the form of extra information or specifying information. Am I clear? Yes, Shanmok, I can see your chat. Good, good that you're assuring me with, yes, everybody can hear me. Great. Good to know. Hope everyone are doing fine. Anybody? Yeah. All right. Let me share my, oh, I haven't shared my screens. All right. Right. Just give me a minute. Settle down faster. We are going little more advanced. New rule for some people. These are things that you have already experienced. However, this is the digital SAT version. Okay. So let's see how we can work with those basic aspects or elements that you can use in your editing skills. And when you're reading also, you can use these skills. Um, Recent sessions were all about linking sentences and fragments. Sentences like independent clauses. How do you connect two independent clauses? How do you connect or combine or separate fragments by using different punctuations, with punctuations, without punctuations? Today's discussion is exclusively surrounding essentials and non-essential clauses. This will take two more classes and then there are few more rules. So total there are three more classes pending with the punctuation rules. Okay. And then we'll move to the verbs, the pronouns, and the apostrophes and all those with the SAT type of questions. Clear? All right. So yeah, the rule question number 4, lesson 4 is about punctuating essentials and non-essentials. Non-essential, as the name specifies, it stands by its own. I mean, no, sorry, this is not a clause. Non-essentials, have you heard of this? These terms, essentials and non-essentials? Yes, everybody? Hi, Sahasra, Hanvit, Viraj. Yes, what's your definitions? Do you know the definition? Do you know these terms? Are you hearing for the very first time? I don't think so. I don't think so. Hey, Neeti. So we know these, but we are going to imply little more specific. We are going to go with the specificity. Until now, you haven't worked with these questions. Now let's see. Okay, essential and non-essential clauses. Non-essentials are the one which will be working today. Okay, essentials, there are very few rules and there are few questions. Non-essentials work with additional information. What to do with that additional information and why does it happen? Why do we need to punctuate the non-essentials? Can't we just go with the same old version of just punctuating, right? So, so when you are trying to link, sometimes the author or the passage, whoever is writing, so he cannot give you simple sentences. They need to add additional information. Otherwise, their content can become very concise, right? Concise, not very concise. So, and very like it becomes precise for the reader. They need to come up with many write-ups and long passages to show off their stylistic aspects, right? That they can write so much. So to show off that they have so much content to write for the readers, to entertain the readers or to hook the readers, a lot of information has been written, and that information often is not the main statement. Okay, those sentences are not main. They are additionals or supporting sentences. Okay, and we need not consider them as essentials because the writer has already expressed his opinion on that, or he has already stated the fact about it, and he's just adding additional or extra information, or sometimes specifying the information towards a fact, a concept, or hypothesis, or a famous a statement, and so on, or quotations. Okay, that comes under the additional information. So we will be learning about specifying and the extra information and how to identify and correctly punctuate them. That's what we are going to do in today's discussion. Moving on. So just a basic aspect of what is essential and non-essential. If you can read out the example over here. Yes. Anyone? Right? I can simply, this is a complete sentence, right? But I don't know who or what are we talking about? How I have no information about Mae Jemison, who became interested in space and part of the Lieutenant Uhura. I don't know what's happening. So to clarify the reader, I might write who this so-called, character is, right? So astronaut, give me a second. I am back. So just to clarify or specify his information, they might add more, some character or titles, labels, or what occupation they are, and these to just to have more clarity, give us more clarity for the readers. So even if I don't mention astronaut, I still can come up with a conclusion because I'll be reading more sentences. There will be continuous sentences about him. Information is just in front of you. So you did not, think or get confused that who exactly is this. But still, the author wants to have a concise way of presenting his information. Hence, he comes up with giving labels. So this astronaut, it's an extra information about him. Got it? So even though it's a complete sentence, both are complete sentences. They are essential. They are independent clauses, but we are just adding a little more information. Okay, this is all the discussion is all surrounding these things. Now, just as to make you understand, those who aren't aware, that's fine. It can be a revision for you of what are essential clauses and how do we identify essential clause. It's very, very easy to identify essential clause with the usage of that. Wherever you find that, you will not be needing any commas. Okay. As a rule, if it's a non-essential, that means if the sentences contain the word that means that so-called sentence, like let's say, the movie that opens on Friday looks good. So here that is connecting the movie with what exactly is the information followed, right? I cannot punctuate such sentences because these are called essential information or essential clauses. I have clarity when I use that. Okay. And hence such information which comes with the word that you need not plug in or any kind of punctuation. For that matter, not just comma, any other punctuation. You don't need any punctuation. Clear? So whenever you see that in the sentence, you need to identify it's going to be a essential clause, especially in your options given. Okay. And options like with that, you need not use any punctuations. Not just only comma, anything. Okay. Now, what is non-essential? What what are non-essential clauses and where will be using them? And why are they so important for our SAT passages or questions? Because these involve little more tricks, and they're not just commas, even colons can be used, because you and sometimes you need to work, and non-essentials come in different forms. Additional information comes in different forms. One way to recognize the sentence or the so-called option is, given option is a non-essential clause. Okay, let's understand what exactly are non-essential. Someone, can you mute and please read out to my left? To my left. Yes. What is a non-essential clause? What do they do? What is the role? Yes, should I name someone? Yes, Varshit, would you like to go read out loud for us? What are non-essential clauses? Neha?
A non-essential clause adds extra information to a sentence but isn't necessary for the sentence to make sense. You can
Yes.
remove it and the sentence will still be complete.
Let's see how is it. Okay. And you often find them with commas. When you find two commas, when you find something like this, see, my brother, even if I strike off or cross out this, I still have information. My brother is coming to visit. My brother is your subject. Here is your verb. It's a complete meaningful sentence. Okay. Whatever is plugging in between the two commas, especially with the WH questions like who and what, sorry, which, who and which are your, those you can easily identify that they are non-essentials. Okay. Because they give additional information. I don't need to know who your brother, where he lives. Just, just that I have a subject and my verb, that's more, and a connecting verb is more than enough, right? So whatever you are giving as an information is non-essential. Even if I cross out, you still have to get a complete meaningful sentence. Hence, then it is called as a non-essential. Without it, without this information, if it's still meaningful, it becomes a non-essential clause. Okay. And I have given little explanation to this. Who lives in Canada as an extra info. The sentence still works as my brother is coming to visit. Now, Eiffel Tower, which is in Paris. Again, this is an additional information. Why do I need this? I know it's a famous landmark. Even without which is in Paris, the sentence still makes sense. Any sentence that makes sense without the additional information between those two commas, that is called as non-essential information. How do you recognize? Very simple, with the WH questions like who and which, and they are set off with two commas. Clear? Okay. Now, some rules, some do's and don'ts, okay, about these. If one or both the commas are removed, however, the sentence is incorrect. Watch out for these errors in your, where should you know? Why should you learn about these errors? Because they'll be given in your options. You cannot have a single comma like this before which. It needs to be plugged between two commas. Even if I have at the end also. Okay, this becomes an introductory phrase, kind of. Okay, with WH questions. They're called, this is incorrect. I cannot simply have which and write it as a simple sentence. It has to be separated or set off between two commas. That's the rule. And in order to fix the sentence, you must recognize that it will still make sense. So when you're just plug it out and read, okay, the Tower of London is one of the largest and most imposing fortifications in England. Okay, if I write like this, if I remove this also, if it is making sense, then it is non-essential. Just plug off and read. If it is not making sense, then it is what? It becomes essential, and you need to, for that, you have only one rule to follow, which is that. For non-essentials, you will identify who and which. Clear? The correct version here, as you can see, the Tower of London, if I strike off this, anything between the two commas, Still it is making a complete sentence, is one of the largest and most imposing fortifications in England. So watch out for these errors. Okay, so there is some revision. To reiterate, if a sentence still makes sense when a word or a phrase is crossed out, two commas must be placed around that information that I just mentioned. Okay, let's see to how we work with this. Okay, any part of the, so you will not be asked in the only in the middle of the sentence. It's not going to be non-essential. You have to read right from the very beginning. Okay, reading in middle of the sentence and between the blank, no, it's not going to help you. You need to go back, read the sentence which has the subject and verb, and just see if the information that you're going to remove from the options, is it essential or non-essential. Let's look out this example. You can see, just let's plug in until ago. Okay, the city of London, which was originally built by the Romans along the banks of Thames more than 2000 years ago. So your first sentence, you know, we need a, if I remove this entire part from which until ago, yes, I need a verb, right? Because the city of London is your subject and it has to has its relevant, yes, connecting verb, and the connecting verb is contains. You cannot have a semicolon and contains, right? A verb. You need to have two independent clauses to plug in a semicolon. We already had done that rule. You cannot have comma and containing, because you know ing phrases, yes, we have to begin the sentence with. Okay. To begin the sentence, you can use ing. So B and C are eliminated. We are left with A and D. Now tell me, and without without any punctuation, that becomes a run on. Hence my answer A is also eliminated. I mean, my choice A is also eliminated. And what do I have now? Yes, everyone? Absolutely, that's right, Sami. Yes, option D. Whoever have marked option D, that's the right answer. As you know, we need a subject, the city of London. If I remove this until ago, if I cross out, okay, that means from this comma, which if I cross out, there comes a comma and contains. The city of London contains number of extremely modern neighborhoods. That's going to be my uh easy, Himavant. Easy. Okay. Don't do anything with the annotation. All right, good. So those who mark D, that's correct. Okay, good. Now let's move on to the next part of our discussion. Good that you have identified the essentials and non-essentials. Yes, yes, Preetam. Everybody who are marked D, that's correct. See, this is how I will work with my sentence. In case if you're doubtful whether the sentence or from whatever information you're reading is essential or non-essential, just plug between two independent or plug between the commas and read out. You will find out. If you strike off and you find you're reaching up, the subject and verb are connected, that's a complete sentence. Okay. Two commas do not always equate a no. Yes. So it need not that every time if you have a non-essential clause, it need not be that you need two independent two commas. Okay. It's not true all the time. So if you're reading sentence one here, look at this. London, which was one of the, so until here, it's non-essential, remains an important financial and cultural center today. So this is a non-essential that can be removed without altering its basic meaning, this. But what I'm talking about is this one, this part. Okay. If I remove this part, anything between the, so don't think that anything that comes between the commas are non-essentials, not really. So you have to be mindful, and the first clue is comma and WH questions like who and which. Those are good, good to identify that those, the so-called clause is a non-essential. So just be mindful, you cannot eliminate this entire information, but anything between the two commas, okay? All right. Now, this we have already did in our last session, but there are few more rules associated with the transitional phrases, especially with however, though, and moreover. We'll work on those, okay? Now, you know, introductory phrase or transitional phrases can come in the beginning of the sentence like this. They can come in between the sentence like this. Many scholars believe it's an introductory phrase, right? And it can also come at the end of the sentence. If you see from the beginning, in the beginning of the sentence, you know, you won't be using any commas. If you are using in between the sentence, they have to be plugged between commas because they are interrupters and it is an additional information. And I need to plug that in between the two commas. And at the end of the sentence, still, it's going to be an additional information. Okay. All right. Now, a little more detailing about this, especially with however, therefore, moreover, indeed, in fact, for example. These are tested and we have to practice these particular single word transitions. So, you know, in the last discussion, we already have discussed about however. Where can we place however? Either in the beginning of the second sentence, and it has to you come with a comma, or you can plug in between two independent clauses using a semicolon, however, and a comma. This was the rule that you learned with periods and semicolons and transitions. The second one, if you need to, uh, if you're using however in between the sentence, you need to plug that it because it's a non-essential, right? However, is non-essential over there. It's not required, but to create that aspect, however, is used, and in that case, you will be plugging that with two commas. Okay. So the tip clearly says commas around however mean you can remove it and the sentence will still make sense. Let's see how if it's true or not. The Tower of London was built during Norman conquest. Nearly 1,000 years later, it still remains standing. See, makes sense, right? Nearly 1,000 years later, it. So we have a complete sentence there. So with or without, in between, in that case, if you have to plug in transitions, make sure that it is still making complete sense. Now, the third rule says we can also place the transition at the end of the sentence, right? Like this. In that case also, yes, it is going to be a non-essential. Okay. So we can place the transition at the end of the sentence. However, can come in the end part. It can come in the middle of the sentence. It can come in the beginning of the sentence. If it comes in the beginning of the sentence, you know it has to be something like this. If you're using between two independent clauses, you are going to use that with a semicolon. If, however, or therefore, moreover is used between the sentence because it's acting as a non-essential, we will be plugging between two commas. You can use it as a closing part of your sentence or end of your sentence with a single comma. Okay. All right. What we cannot do, what you cannot do is this. Why is this incorrect? The first part and the second part should be contrast. If I am using however as a contrast, then it is correct. But both are talking about similar ideas. In that case, you cannot plug in however in this format. Okay. So in the above version of the sentence, the two commas imply the word however can be removed without affecting the sentence essential meaning. But if we remove those commas, we end up with two independent clauses placed back to back without punctuation between. Yes. So if I remove however, then you have two independent clauses and you cannot have two independent clauses with a comma. That becomes a run-on error. Okay. So we need to be careful when you're using commas. Just watch out what transition you have. Is the transition in the beginning of the sentence, middle of the sentence, end of the sentence? To summarize, uh, we need two commas or periods or semicolons, for that matter, colons also. By the context, you should understand what is that however doing over there. Is it contrasting? Is it just an interrupter? I mean, as a non-essential aspect, you have to identify that. Okay. If I unplug it, even then the sentence is complete, then it's okay. You can use between two commas. Clear? So beginning, middle, end. This is the context. If you are unsure which type of punctuation should be used, you just check your answer choices, plug that and see whether plugging in that particular option is making sense with or without that essential information or the information you're plugging in. Clear? All right. So here are some rules. The one which I just taught you. Transitions are used non-essentially. So in the beginning, If you're starting, then you need a period. Or if you're connecting two independent clauses, then you need a semicolon and a however or a colon. Let's see how do we work with this. Plug in movement here, sense of movement. Okay. I will use movement here. I will plug that. Okay. Read in that manner. Until now, or most approaches have involved either vision or speed and sense of movement. That's your first sentence. Now, the second sentence, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? If you have however, yes, however, can be used in the beginning or in the middle, but when it's used in the middle, what's your answer? Yes. So just read this as I always mention that you need to separate that, divide it. Okay, divide this whole text part and read it. You'll find two. What are they? Yes. Until now, most approaches have evolved either vision or speed and sense of moment. That's your part one. The next sentence is the new system combines both, allowing robots to anticipate changes in their environment and change course if required. Yes. Yes, everyone. Option A, option B, C. Just give me a second. If there's some error over here. Okay. Yes. So how many answers for C? Yes. Yes. Mahendra, that's correct. Comparison is seen. So we are until now, most approaches have involved either vision, speed, and sense of movement. Until then, that's one thought. Correct? The new system, what is the new system doing? It is combining both. So allowing robots to anticipate change in the environment and changes of course if required. So what's happening in the second part? Some are C, some are B. Are they same? Is the second part same? Most approaches have involved the vision only single, right? It has to be the previous approach was either vision, speed, or sense of movement. Wait a minute, there's a new system coming up which is combining both. So, what do you say? Is there a contrast over here? If there is a contrast, how do you plug your answer? Okay, good. So those with, however, can anybody explain why is it semicolon and however? Most approaches have involved either vision, speed, or sense of movement. Sentence one. Sentence two, the new system combines both. So there are two independent clauses. That's first rule. Two independent clauses, you can bring them together using a semicolon. And we have a however here. Okay, as a contradicting transition. Correct? So how do you work with that? C is your answer. Yeah, good. All right, Mahendra. Good that you understood. So everybody anonymously on C. Very good. Correct. You got the context. So when in case of doubt, just split your sentence like this until here till then you can work on it. Okay. A transition placed at the end of a sentence connect the sentence to the previous sentence. Okay. So even though question may appear to ask only about the end of a sentence and the beginning of the next, you may also need to think about third sentence. Okay. Don't just only think about this and the second one. I'm talking about don't only read a new system. This is your first sentence. Okay. Until here is your first. The second starts from here. So sometimes with this, sometimes your transitions are the last part of your sentence, okay, end part of the sentence. But basically, this read and understand to which part this transition belongs to. Okay, so you have to start reading from here. Traditionally, most approaches to robotic navigation, yes, though is used. What do you see here? A new system developed by team from University of California, San Diego, along with other researchers combined both systems. There ends your first sentence. The second sentence says, let's take from here. Okay, don't read with the transition. Don't read with the transition. Read from here. The four-legged robots created by the group are able to anticipate changes in the environment and change courses. An object is, huh. So what do you see? Yes. Why option D? This though actually belongs to here, this part. You have to include this with the systems. Okay. So if I have to split my sentence and read it, then you'll understand how to get a clarity of those sentences. See, new systems developed until both systems, but the though belong to the systems part, not for the second sentence. Okay. If you think though start is part of second this third part, no, that isn't true. Now read from here, then you see why though has to be used for the second part of the sentence. Okay, though belongs to the second part. And here's one more thing. Wherever you are using, there is no change in the meaning of it. Though can be used in the beginning, middle, or at the end. Wherever it is using, it is still creating a contrast. So if you are looking at sentence 2 and 3, when here these two, then they are not contrasting to each other. If you read from the beginning, traditionally most approaches to robotic navigation is involved either vision or speed and sense of direction. A new system developed by a team from the University of California, and this if you use though, okay, then the though belongs to yes to this part. So basically, anywhere you can use though. It is still contrasting. This new thing is contrasting to the first part. Let's say this is first, second, and here's my third. Until now, I'm reading between these two. But if you notice, these two are not contrasting. The first part and the second part are contrasting. That's why my sentence should end with though. So my answer is B. Yes, exactly, Mahendra. That's exactly what I'm trying. Hence, though belongs to sentence 2, not sentence 3. Clear? Because my first, if you read first and read the second, they are contrasting to each other. And what is the transition that we need here to contrast? Though. So your answer is not C, D, A, it is B. Why are you marking C? What's the confusion here? Always split your sentences like this and see which part is contrasting to. If first is contrasting to second or second and third are contrasting. Whichever part is contrasting, though belongs to that particular sentence. Clear? And you know the rule. When there are three versions that I taught you, you can use in the beginning, middle, or the end. At the end, you have comma and though. That means you can, the sentence is completely contrasting to whichever, beginning to the first part or the third part. Here it is basing on the context, it is contradicting to the first part of the sentence or first part of the text. Am I clear? I'll leave this discussion so that it sinks in your mind. If you have any questions, you can reach out. Okay. Uh, over, over explanations also can overwhelm you. So watch this video once again. I repeat, transitions, contrasting transitions. Watch out for the context. Which particular sentence is contradicting to either the first part or the next part. Okay. If it is contradicting the first part, then though belongs to the second sentence. If it is contradicting to the third part, you can begin a sentence with though for the third sentence. Try this one. Check the check the context first. Now, when you look at such first rule, what rule are you tested on here? It is testing our non-essential. Do I know that how to join a non-essential with commas or not? It's testing my skill. So the minute you confirm yourself, you know what to remove also. We cannot use inquiry and however. This is C is gone. We don't need that. And you're left with a colon. Colon means whatever you're trying to explain that goes next to it. So this part, is it an explanation to the first part? Anything that comes after colon is an elaboration or an explanation. You know the rule, right? So without any, further thinking, and if this part is explaining to this aspect, this is an introduction and colon, and this is an remaining part of the discussion, then you go with A. Let's see how many of you are going with A. B. Shanmukh is B. Okay, Preetham. You know what? It's pretty easy to plug in colons. Colons are most favored by the college board, by the way. Colon is a very, because commas are explain overused actually. So the next thing that you can think about is colons. Colons have a special reputation like semicolons. So definitely in case of doubt, you can think about colons. They are most favored punctuation. So I'm going with A, not just because they are favored, but it makes sense over here. He was deeply influenced by humanistic inquiry. Okay, don't read with however, okay? Don't read anything. He derived much of, so isn't this an elaboration or an explanation of the first part? He derived much of his inspiration from art, particularly this. So there is an influence and inspiration. So the first part is a sentence and the next part is an explanation to the first part. I will go with colon. How many of you will agree with me? Let me check your answers. I hope I'm clear on that. I agree. Thank you, Mahendra. So he's getting his rules absolutely well understood. Good. Moving on. So every time I do this, in case of doubt, I will split my sentences, mark my 1 and 2 and 3 because any paragraph is just, sorry, any text is hardly 50 to 60 words. So this allows me to, quick have more clarity on what I'm marking. Of course, looking at if it doesn't fit my rule, I will simply strike off. Elimination technique. Okay, try this. Yes. Let's see. So what exactly are we working here? Rule. Now, what rule are we working here? Question yourself. What rule are we looking at? Of course, with howevers. So we are working here with the category rules of what? All words are same, but the commas are changing. You see, everything is same except the comma placements are different. I mean, it's changing. So, especially with around the famous, of which was started in 1927 at University of Queensland. So that's an additional information. What did I tell you with the additional information? Yes, additional information should be plugged or set off with remove it. Okay. What to remove? Huh? What remove it? So as per the strategy, we'll be looking at answers, whatever are changing, and all the words are same, but the commas are changing here. And there, when you see where exactly is the change happening, you see they're surrounding the phrase, the most famous of which was started in all that information, right? Now to test, try removing the phrase from the sentence. Just remove it and read. Okay, yeah, exactly. Remove it. Scientists use what is known as a pitch drop experiment. Okay, not required. In this, I would be using in this what? In this experiment, let me plug in the word experiment here so it's easy for me to understand. In this experiment, huh, from in this experiment, and then you directly come to a funnel filled with pitch allows the if I cross out this part until this comma. Okay, in this experiment, this is my subject, a funnel filled with pitch. Yes, that makes sense. Filled with, right? In this experiment is actually a introductory phrase. Okay, what is actually correct is a funnel filled with pitch allows the pitch to drop. There's a subject here. Filled is your verb. So my answer is yes. One anonymous answer. Option A. Why guess? No more guessing, huh? Why guess? These are super duper easy ones, easy peasy ones. No guess business. Rule, you just learn the rule. Execute your rule. That's it. So the rule says anything between two commas, additional information. So this is an additional information. Clear? So A is your answer. How many of you agree? Anybody have any disagreements? That means you are not yet conforming yourself with the rule. Rule is very important. Non-essentials are plugged in between two commas. Always set off with commas. And always don't think that non-essentials come in the form of WH questions like who and which. They are also one of the clue. You can also find such kind of introductory phrases. They can also come with transitional phrases using however, although, though, and all that. Here's another one. Try it out. I'm just waiting when to conduct a small mini test, not small, mini test for you all. So it becomes a revision kind of thing. Huh. Chalo. Question yourself, what is this testing us? Don't look at this part. It has nothing to do with your initial seeking the information. You have to seek anything from here itself. So what is this question asking you to do? It is a rules-based question. You understand that. And what are the answer revealing? It's testing your punctuation. See all the colons and no colon, no punctuations at all. No, sorry, not no punctuations. You have a comma and a dash. So this is testing your non-essentials with or extra information with the punctuation aspect. So start from the beginning of the sentence. And what is the beginning? His poetry collection. Huh. So what text? And the part after gives the name of the collection. What is that collection? Night Sky with Exit Wound. Okay. So what do you think is your answer here? Do we need any punctuation? Yes. It's a continuous sentence. His poetry collection, Night Sky with Exit Wounds. Is it specifying or additional information? If the information is specifying something, it is indicating something, you don't need a punctuation. Why D, Babu? Huh? Why D, Preetham? Is it additional information? Did I teach anything with the dashes? Until now, there is no information. I haven't taught anything with dashes, especially with the non-essentials and essentials. Read, identify whether this part that you're reading is extra information or specifying information. His poetry collection, Night Sky with Exit Wounds, it's specifying the information. Poetry collection, what is a poetry collection? Night Sky with Exit Wounds. So I don't need any punctuation over here. Clear? Any old? Huh? Yes, Sahasra. Why Sahasra? Why do we need a colon? Huh? Contains new night sky with exit wound is B is your answer. Why everybody are coming with different types of answers? Isn't the rule clear for you? Oh, in that case, it's not giving information. It has to elaborate. Elaboration or explain something. So do you think this is explaining something? His poetry collection, Night Sky with Exit Wound, contains numerous. Is it an explanation part? Let's say the first part has created a suspense. The second part has to fulfill that suspense. Is that the scenario here? If you read this, I mean, from here at least, his writings, all this American poet, novelist about him, and with English language to explore trauma and identity, his poetry collection, Night Sky with Exit Wounds, contains, see, this is my subject. And immediately, subject should be connected with its what? Verb. This is my subject and contains is my verb. I have to place my subject and verb very next to each other. They are like Leila Majnu. Okay. Why is it non-essential? It isn't specifying information. It is not a non-essential. This is information. This information is important. Why is it non-essential? I don't get it. In that case, then you need uh, what do you say, two commas if it's non-essential. But I don't have any two commas and this information is not plugged in between those two commas. This is A is incorrect, children, because you are not reading any explanatory part to the previous. His poetry collection, Night Sky with Exit Wounds, contains. Come on, how can you use contains verb starting? We never use such kind of sentence phrases. Okay. You cannot have phrases with beginning with a verb. Clear? No, that's incorrect. So here we don't need any sort of punctuation because we have two types of information. One is something that specifies directly that information is given. Specifying information. Today we are understanding about specifying information versus extra information. Chalo. That's what we learned today. Okay. And for specifying information, we will never use any punctuations. For extra information, we will definitely plug them between commas. Clear? No, dear Neha, this is not non-essential. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, you will get confused because all at a time you're taking. So watch these videos again and again. What we are dealing here is specifying information. That means his poetry collection. What is that? Night Sky with Exit Wounds. I don't need to have any additional information in the form of colon and try explaining it. It's clearly given. What does it contain? Numerous poems and about all that rest of the sentence. Okay. Yes, dear. Yep. You have to fight. Champs, you need to fight because these are very important and they take a lot of time. One thing you have to understand how to place however. If it is in the beginning, it comes with a comma and just before a period. If it's a between two independent clauses, but it is creating an interruption or it is a contrasting the rest of the sentence, the second part, then you need with semicolons. And however, though, or any contrast or transitions at the end, you just need a comma and the simple transition word. But just be mindful, where is this contrast happening? That means you have to go back to the context. You can't blindly plug in your commas. That doesn't work like that. Context is also very important to make it grammatically correct. Clear? How to differentiate specific means what? He's just simply talking about, see, I have a subject, his poetry collection. What is it? Night Sky with exit code. That's your specific information. And what else? This is my subject and rest of the sentence contains is my verb. You should always be mindful about the how to bring the subject and verb together. Like I said, they're Romeo and Juliet. You can't separate them. Okay, then conflict happens and you might end up making wrong choices. Always make sure that the subject and verb are next to each other. They cannot be, placed elsewhere. There are always interrupters, somebody to keep them away. So you have to bring them together. Do the needy and save them and save your scores. Okay. I went little analogic, but come on, let's do the next one. Okay, what do I see here? All traditions, all the four options have one word with a comma, semicolon, colon, and no punctuations. Test for you. Try this out. This is definitely testing your punctuation rules. So start at the beginning of the sentence. What does it say? A jazz cellist and composer known for her unique sounds and blend of musical traditions. Huh. Then what? And then it gives the person's name. That means I didn't teach you this rule, right? Yeah, I understand. We'll do this. So basically, we are having, I just told you, right? Label, name labeling and all that. You can use commas for that also. Anything like astronaut, we have just in the beginning, I showed you. Additional information is always plugged off with a comma because it is known as an introductory phrase. So whatever begins, whatever this whole thing is like introduction, like you're stepping onto the stage and you're being praised, you're giving a bombastic introduction about you. Likewise the same, a jazz cellist and composer known for unique sounds and blend of musical traditions, comma, to make her, that here comes her name. Just before the name, anything that comes as and what she do, what is she famous for, blah 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 and all that, that should be separated with a comma. Okay. Hmm? If you end up with, let's go on with thinking about semicolons. A jazz cellist and a composer known for her unique sounds and blend of musical traditions. Huh, then what? Then what? Something is missing. Something is not connecting. There should be something traditions as she was known for. And their sentence should end. But no, it ends at traditions. Something is abrupt. Hence, I cannot consider these two as independent clauses. This is not an independent clause. This is a phrase. And here comes my independent clause because I have a subject, I have a verb over here. Okay. So this part is your introductory phrase. It's introducing the so-called person, character, or his personality, or what he does. Yes, option A. Perfect. None of these work because as you're reading, this is an introduction to this person. So immediately strike off everything. You just need a comma because this is your introductory phrase. Okay, that's another rule I missed out in explaining. All right, so we'll catch up more on these sessions in the next, probably we're meeting on Wednesday. When we're meeting, we'll have more on these, but just get ready with little prepping, watch these, come back. I'll have at least 10 questions of practice test Then we'll move on to the next part of our discussion, just to test yourself. Okay. All right. How many of you are taking the month of May? Yes. How many of you are taking in the month of May?